And there they found all the animal symbols that were later to appear in Egypt. And there they found the crown sitting on the pharaoh, that an unmistakable shape, the crown that sat on the heads of the southern pharaohs that was later to sit beside the crown of the north when the Africans moved up into Egypt. And there above all, they found the hieroglyphs, the beginning of a writing system created by the blacks. As I have pointed out, when I was in England, I was taught that Africans were preliterate. I was told that they was missing something. They just had oral tradition. They just talked. And you recorded their talk, and that's all they had. They never wrote. I did not know that the English were preliterate. The English have no script, you know. The English do not have a writing system. We have English songs. English doesn't have a writing system. This is Roman. There are very few Europeans who have writing system. The Spanish do not have a writing system. Roman. The Germans do not have a writing system. Roman. The English do not have a writing system. Roman. How many writing systems are there in Europe? There's the Cyrillic alphabet in Russia. There's the Greek script. There's the Roman script. There's the Phoenician script, which is partly affected by the Egyptian. There is the Celtic script, which is partly affected by the African, according to the book of Balimote, is part African and part European. Does Africa have no scripts? There is the Mande script found at Udmurtetek 3,500 years before Christ. Thousands of inscriptions in Mande. There is the hieroglyphic script created at Kustal before it goes up into Egypt. No script on earth has as old books as we have found in African hieroglyphs. No people on earth have as complex early philosophy as the Africans, as you will see translated from the Egyptian texts. The Book of the Coming Forth by Night and Day and other pyramid texts, etc., which deals with the origins of the universe in very complex terms. No people have an earlier literature in medicine. No people have an earlier literature in mathematics. And in spite of the massive destruction of Africa and the massive destruction of documents, they survive in their fragmented state as proof and witness that they had it. And then there's the Meroitic script, which Theophilo Benga is now trying to break at UNESCO. And then there's the Akan script, both a drum script and a written script. And there's the Faka script, the only script that traveled to America with Africans. It is found used by the Saramaka in the jungles of Suriname. And then there are other scripts, the Himyaritic script, and even the Arabic script was invented in its first stages by Abul Aswan, an African. It appears in the diaries of Ibn Khalikan, page 663. And let us deal with the question now, the scientific question: who were the Egyptians? First of all, Sheikh Antioch went to the museums where they had mummies. No people on earth survived. No people on earth have been preserved as long as the African. There is no European mummy, no European body that is more than 150 to 200 years. The Russians have recently caught up on mummification. The Russians have preserved Stalin. I think they have preserved Lenin too, I'm not sure. But they have preserved most of their recent leaders. When my prime minister died, president, etc., Burnham died, we sent him to Russia because we knew the Russians had learned the mummification system from the Egyptians. Unfortunately, our machine, our refrigeration unit broke down before he got to Russia, so the Russians had to burn him or send him back home. I can't remember which. I haven't seen him since. But we have the most well-preserved bodies on earth. I will show you when we come to the slides a black woman, an African princess in Egypt who died 4,000 years ago. You can still see her hair. You can still see her skin. You can still see her teeth. There's no such thing anywhere on earth. Nowhere in Europe can you find anyone preserved more than 150 to 200 years. So you can test the skin as Diop did. He took square inches of skin from the mummies in the Museum of Man and he put it in his lab. Sheikh Anta Diop was an extraordinary man. He went out to Paris and he worked in the most advanced nuclear lab in Europe under Frederick Julio Curie, who was the son-in-law of the couple who invented or discovered radium. He built the first radiocarbon lab in Africa. He told me when we were in London, he said, Van, I actually saw the mummy of Ramses II. Very black as I am. And Sheikh Anta Diop was royally black. And he said, when he came back from the experiments in Paris, he was so gray. They pumped him with far more gamma rays than was necessary. Even then, he said it was still possible to get the melanin content in the skin. And when he asked them permission to do it, they said, no, it would destroy the mummy. 1 square inch. And yet all these scientists fooling around with the mummy. Then Sheikh Anta Diop brought up a very serious question. He wrote me and said, do you know we have found something in the body of Ramses II that supports your theory that Africans were in America before Columbus? Do you know we found tobacco in his belly? And I wrote him back and said, no, that's not a proof, because it's just an assumption that tobacco is American, because I have shown that tobacco was both African and American, and the Nicotiana tabacum is American, but the Nicotiana rustica is African. Could you test the tobacco, please? He went back and asked them for the tobacco. No, sir, don't touch anything here. But do you know what happened? Everybody stopped working. Not a word. 48 labs in Europe involved in studying Ramses II, and everybody suppressed their reports. They sent around a rumor in Egypt to say they're not sure that that's the body of Ramses II anymore.